Welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be walking you guys through my blood work from a functional perspective, line by line. So this is completely different from conventional blood labs. When you go to your doctor, you get a blood panel ran, all they're going to look for is a disease or the ability to diagnose you with a disease. So this is a problem that we have in our medical system. So most often if you go to your doctors, you're going to hear that all your labs look good, all your labs look normal. You don't fit the criteria to be diagnosed with the disease yet. So this is really a huge gap in our system, and this is where functional blood labs come in. So with functional blood labs, we're looking for optimal health. We're looking at a very comprehensive picture of what is going on in your body internally. So we're able to pinpoint nutrient deficiencies. We're looking at toxins such as heavy metals, mold. We're also going to be looking at inflammation in the body, but what primarily is driving that inflammation? Because there's always a root cause to inflammation in the body. So that's when we dive deeper into MTHFR, so methylation issues. We're diving deep into more, again, infections, toxins, parasites. All of these things are going to basically fill up your toxin bucket. And once it overfills, that's when we start seeing inflammation just increase in the body. When we have inflammation in the body that has gone haywire, it is chronically inflamed, we really start seeing disease pop up or symptoms pop up. So there is this in-between stage when you go to your doctors, your labs come back normal, but you still feel awful, right? And usually they can't really do much for you. They just say, come back when things get worse, or they just completely dismiss you. So this is where we fit in. We are closing that gap by really providing you clear answers on the root causes behind your symptoms. And then on top of that, we are creating personalized protocols to help you start overcoming those symptoms. So basically, that's exactly what we're going to do today. So I am always on a healing journey. I have been on it for the last 5 years. I have reversed multiple autoimmune conditions, and I want to help you guys understand your body. So we're going to walk through my blood work right now, line by line. So let's get into it. We are looking at my functional blood labs. They are all in a pretty chart because this is how my brain works. I need to see colors, I need to see descriptions, I need to see it all to truly understand what is going on in my body and what patterns are popping up related back to root causes. So my blood was drawn July 17th, 2024. So I got them in pretty quickly, around 3 to 4 days. Usually for the full final results, they're done within a week. So it's a pretty quick turnaround with the functional blood lab. So I absolutely love that. And it's also very comprehensive. So let's start with the iron panel. So with the iron panel specifically, everything that you're going to see is color coded. So everything in green is in optimal range. It's not normal, it's in optimal ranges. Everything in red is going to be high, everything in blue is going to be low. So starting with the iron panel, as you can see, my iron panel looks really good. Like, I'm very impressed with this. Ferritin is high. So when we see ferritin high, most often it points back to chronic inflammation, and then on top of that, liver stress. We also want to understand, okay, well, what is causing the inflammation? What is causing the liver stress? And usually this is when we start digging deeper into different toxins. So parasites are known to actually lower your ferritin, but when there's chronic inflammation in the body, inflammation is always going to trump that low ferritin. So then we'll start seeing high ferritin pop up. Next, we are looking at our complete blood count. So this is more so looking at your immune system, any type of chronic infection, acute infection, and then we're also looking at nutrient needs here too. So very comprehensive. We're starting with our white blood cells. So our white blood cells are basically our immune cells that when there is a chronic infection, when there's an invader, when there's a foreign substance that's in your body and it shouldn't be in your body, your white blood cells are going to be released, and these are basically your warriors. So your warriors are going to go look for these foreign invaders, and they're going to try to attack them. So as you can see, my white blood cell count is low, out of optimal range, okay? When our white blood cell count is a low, that is going to point back to there's probably some type of chronic infection that my body and my immune system has been trying to fight for years on end, and eventually your white blood cell count is going to go low because your warriors are tired. They have been fighting for you forever, and they just don't have the fuel in order to fight longer. So then we'll start seeing low immune function, and we'll start seeing these chronic infections start to invade the body. So they are basically winning the battle here. When you see hemoglobin and hematocrit low, this points back to a nutrient need. We have to understand what type of nutrient need. So most often we see a B vitamin need, we see a vitamin A need, and then we also want to dig deeper. Well, okay, is it a true nutrient need, or is it because you have gut inflammation that is blocking that absorption? Or maybe it's heavy metals and that is blocking the absorption of your nutrients too. Because with heavy metals, with chronic inflammation, that is going to impact how well your body is absorbing your nutrients, and on top of that, how well your body is actually digesting the food you're eating and converting that to nutrients. So again, we're going to keep that in the back of our head, like we may have some nutrient needs that we really need to focus in on. MCV, when this is high, this is a really great indicator of a nutrient need, specifically B12 or folate. So usually when you go to your doctor and this is elevated, which usually it's not, but if it is out of their normal ranges, if it's in medical ranges and it's high, this basically tells them like, okay, we may need to run a vitamin B12 biomarker so we actually understand if it's a B12 need. I do not like running vitamin B12 because it's just not accurate in the blood. I like to run a marker called MMA paired with the MCV, so we're actually able to see if that B12 is actually low. So MCV, again, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, there's definitely some type of nutrient need, specifically B12 or folate. Everything else on this panel looks great. MCH looks great. MCHC looks great. Everything in green is going to be in optimal range. So that's amazing. So again, little history of mine. I had multiple autoimmune conditions. When I first got my blood work done from a functional perspective, I swear every single biomarker was out of optimal range. We had lots of low markers, we had lots of high markers, and so seeing these all in green really makes me so happy because I know everything I'm doing on a daily basis is really making my internal health healthier, so I'm actually going to age better and actually feel good in my body. Moving on to the comprehensive metabolic panel. So glucose was great, BUN was great, creatinine was great. eGFR, which is looking at how well your kidneys are filtering, it was on the lower end. I like to see it at least above a 90, and mine was a 79. So that means that I may have some kidney stress going on. I may need some more support. Again, I want to understand why my kidneys are stressed out right now. Before getting this blood work done, I was on the river for a couple weekends and it was extremely hot. I was probably dehydrated and I wasn't really taking that best care of myself. So I honestly knew that my kidneys were going to be stressed. I knew I was going to see some patterns pointing to dehydration. So basically, I'm pretty sure what I'm trying to say is it was due to dehydration. So just not drinking enough water is going to place a stress on your kidneys, because how is it going to start filtering out your blood if your blood's not moving efficiently because you're dehydrated, right? So I'm going to keep that in the back of my head too, but definitely going to need some kidney support. CO2, carbon dioxide, was low. When this is low, this can point back to just excess acid in the body. So I'm just very acidic. Again, that's going to really fuel inflammation in the body. When you have excess acid, you're going to have a lack of oxygen in the body too. So basically, we need oxygen in order to breathe. We need oxygen in order to really live our whole life. So if there's a lack of O2, that means I'm not getting oxygen to my key organs, such as my brain. So that's going to lead to anxiety. It's going to lead to the inability to really handle stress. So again, anxiety and stress is a big indicator here when you have lots of acid in the body. Shallow breathing. So if you have ever had a panic attack, if you've ever dealt with anxiety or just lots of stress, you don't fully deep breathe. So again, if you're not getting that acid out of your body, that carbon dioxide out of your body, you're not bringing in enough oxygen in the body. So then that's going to, again, lead to more acidity in the body. This can also point back to liver stress and just the need for antioxidants. So these are all connected. Total protein, when this is high, we're going to automatically think chronic dehydration. We're also going to think liver stress. Our liver is responsible for over 500 different functions in the body. One of those functions is going to be breaking down your food properly, specifically your protein. So if your liver is not working properly, if it's stressed out, it's not going to be able to break down that protein, and it's going to basically build up in the blood. That is something that I really have to focus in on. I really have to always support my liver because I do have a history of methylation issues, so MTHFR. It's a genetic SNP that I am predisposed to, and that has really led me to deal with a lot of issues with detoxification, such as my liver. Globulin, when this is high, is going to point back most often to heavy metals. It can also point back to immune deficiency, like we were talking about beforehand, so just low immune function. It's also a good marker for liver stress. When we see this marker high too, we will also see either low HCl, so low stomach acid, and leaky gut. So again, anything that is going to stress your digestive system, anything that's going to stress your liver, it's going to impact leaky gut. So when there's gut inflammation, when your body's not able to actually detox properly because your liver's stressed out, then all of those toxins that you're supposed to be getting rid of and breaking down from through your liver, it's going to impact your gut lining. Your gut lining is the first line of defense. It is a barrier to the outside world. So if there's any type of toxins that are getting through that barrier, that means it's going to really increase inflammation in the body. Your AG ratio, which is just albumin and globulin ratio, is low. It's going to point back to liver stress. Obviously, if you have albumin out of range, if you have globulin out of range, it's going to throw your AG ratio off. So again, when this is low, it's going to point back to liver stress. So there's a pattern forming here that I really need to support my liver, I really need to support my kidneys, and those are your major detoxification organs. Alk phosphatase or alkaline phosphatase is low. When this is low, this is going to point back to mitochondrial dysfunction. This is also a good marker for low zinc. However, I measured my zinc levels and they were optimal. So that means that it's definitely not low zinc that I'm dealing with. It is mitochondrial dysfunction. So mitochondrial dysfunction, let's talk about that a little bit. So your mitochondria are basically the engines to every cell in your body. So they produce the energy for every function in the body. So if you have toxin exposures, if you're drinking alcohol, if you're being exposed to toxins through our air, our water, our food supply, those toxins will break down your cells. It will impact your mitochondria, which will start losing those engines, right? Those engines will slow down and you'll not be able to produce enough energy to actually do every other function in the body. So this is when we start seeing very low energy, very fatigued. A lot of people feel super dizzy when they stand up. You'll see skin issues, you'll see liver stress, kidney stress, because when we have mitochondrial dysfunction, when our mitochondria are not producing enough energy, every single organ in our body will basically reduce in its function. So again, mitochondrial dysfunction is something that we really, really need to focus on, especially nowadays because all the neurodegenerative diseases that we have going on, the Alzheimer's, the dementia, that's all tied back to mitochondrial dysfunction. So if we really support your cellular health, if we really give your mitochondria the tools it needs to be able to function normally, every single function and organ system in your body will improve dramatically. So mitochondrial dysfunction, and when you support your mitochondria, reverse that, you'll start to see lots of improvement in brain function. LDH, when this is low, this is a really good indicator for fasting. So I have a lot of women who come to me and they have been fasting, they think they love fasting, but then they have all these symptoms related back to the fatigue, the exhaustion, the brain fog, hormonal imbalances. And so I'm like, okay, well, if you have been fasting, let me see how your LDH looks. So we look at their LDH and it's low, and that's a great indicator that your body is not good at fasting. So then we'll see reactive hypoglycemia. So basically, if you fast in the morning, like you wake up in the morning, you skip breakfast, and you just feel so exhausted, you get super shaky, anxious, sweaty, that is your blood sugar dropping really, really, really low. And so your body will react. When that happens, your body will react. Your body will increase cortisol, right? Your cortisol levels will increase so you can bring that blood sugar back up. You do not want to be doing that. Instead, you want to eat something so your blood sugar levels don't drop like that and they just stay nice and steady all day, like a wave. So that's something that we really have to focus in on as women, especially if you're in your reproductive ages. You can't be fasting. Not at all. Especially if you have hormonal imbalances, do not fast, please. Do not do it. Again, if you do want to understand if you would be a good candidate for fasting, run LDH. This is also a good indicator for B6 need. Again, when you have reactive hypoglycemia, when you are fasting, your body actually needs B6 in order to properly balance your blood sugar. Gastrin, when this is high, is going to be a good indicator of gut inflammation. So I know I have gut inflammation. It's gotten a lot better. I do get bloating every once in a while here and there, especially if I'm eating gluten, if I'm eating dairy, if I'm just living my life. I don't really focus too heavily on avoiding gluten and dairy. Where I can, I will. So in the household, no gluten, no dairy. When I'm out eating with friends and family, socializing, I'm not going to really worry too much about it. So that's probably why. Again, like I said, I was out on vacation for a couple weekends, so I really didn't have access to not eating gluten and dairy. So of course I was eating those things that I shouldn't have been eating. And so of course, like that's going to increase my gut inflammation. Low GGT, this is another really good liver marker. So this was low, again, pointing back to liver stress. This is also a good indicator for glutathione or magnesium need. When you have liver stress, you're not able to really build or create glutathione. So glutathione is basically your liver detox. And so if you don't have enough glutathione, you're not going to be detoxing properly. So again, that's going to impact your whole body. You're going to retain a lot of heavy metals. You're going to retain a lot of toxins, a lot of junk in the body, and that will also increase inflammation in the body. Magnesium is something I do run. So I was a little bit low in there, so I'm going to jump around a little bit. So magnesium, it was low. Again, is it a true magnesium need? Am I just using it up too fast because I am constantly under stress? So I'm just going to go through my magnesium very quickly. Or is it because of leaky gut? Where there's gut inflammation, there's always leaky gut. So I'm constantly supporting that too. Alrighty. So I usually do run a urinalysis. However, when I went to get my blood drawn, I honestly completely forgot. Completely forgot to do my urine test. So this is why I have no data here, which honestly I love to look at because specific gravity is really good to look at. If it's out of optimal range, it can point back to mold, metals. It can also point back to kidney stress. So, I mean, I would have liked to look at that. It would have gave me more information, but it's fine. Moving on to the lipid panel. So this is something that I get lots of questions about, especially when women are starting to eat meat again because they have been on a vegan diet, they have been on a vegetarian diet, they have really felt like their body has just been off. So we look at their lipid panel. So cholesterol, like I always say to women that most often I see tanked cholesterol levels. I hardly see very high cholesterol levels because most people are avoiding fatty foods, most people are avoiding red meat, and so I will see this tanked. Low cholesterol isn't a good thing. Your hormones need cholesterol in order to work properly. So if you have low cholesterol, that means you're going to have hormonal imbalances. I do still suffer with some acne breakouts once in a while, especially during certain times of my month. This can also point back to gallbladder and liver stress. which I know I have liver stress. And when you have gallbladder and liver stress, you're not going to be able to break down your food properly. So then that will lead to you not actually using cholesterol from the food you're eating. This can also be a good indicator of inflammation. It's also a really big indicator for heavy metals and mold. So that's more so the root cause of the inflammation, heavy metals and mold. Triglycerides, this was also low. This points back again to liver stress, metals, and mold. So again, a pattern popping up. When I was on my health journey, like in the beginning, the first year, I did very extensive detoxing. I did detox parasites. I really supported removing metals and mold from my body. And so seeing these pop up, I mean, we're always exposed to these things, right? So I just have to really keep it in the back of my mind, like, okay, like every 6 months, every year, you have to run a panel and really see what your body needs more support with right now. Thyroid panel was actually chef's kiss, okay? The only thing I was worried about was my thyroid antibodies. So when I was dealing with autoimmune conditions, they never ran thyroid antibodies. Your doctor will most often not run these markers. They will run a TSH, and to them, a normal TSH is very not normal, okay? That is all I'm going to say. So my TSH was in the optimal range, which is where I want to see it. However, I wanted to look at the thyroid antibodies because you can have normal TSH and still have thyroid antibodies. That means your immune system is mistaking your thyroid as a foreign invader, and that's not good. So my free T3 was a little bit low. Again, thyroid conversion issue. So this is where free T3 is converted, right, in your liver. Your liver, when it's stressed, is not going to be able to convert that inactive T4 to T3, which is your active thyroid hormone, which is what your body needs and to actually use it. This can point back to selenium need. Selenium is a nutrient, it's a mineral. Your thyroid needs this in order to function properly. My TPO was slightly elevated. I do like to see this under 7, but it was at a 10. So again, this is going to point back to a gluten and dairy sensitivity most often. So again, I was dabbling in gluten and dairy for a couple weekends, so I knew this was most likely going to pop up, but I am very happy that it is pretty. My inflammation panel, so CRP, which is really good, C-reactive protein, it was in optimal ranges. Homocysteine, this was very elevated. So when this is elevated, we're going to see inflammation, genetics. Like I said, I have a history of MTHFR, so that just means my methylation is not working properly, and there's certain nutrients that your body needs in order to methylate properly. B12, B6, B9, choline. We also want to understand, well, what is actually causing this genetic mutation to present itself? Heavy metals, toxins, inflammation. All of those things are going to impact methylation. And so if you have those things, that is going to really impact how well you are detoxing, how well you're actually breaking down homocysteine. So this is something that I honestly kind of knew already, that this was going to be elevated because I have not been taking B12. I have really not been taking my B vitamins, which I should be, but I kind of just took a break and I wanted to see where my body was at. Sedimentation rate, or ESR, is just a inflammation marker. This was extremely elevated. I was very not happy to see this because 34 is high. We'd like to see that under 10. So 34 is definitely like, okay, you got some work to do still. So this is going to point back to just general inflammation in the whole body. Again, we want to understand what is causing that inflammation. So MTHFR is going to contribute to that. Infections are going to contribute to that. Toxins such as the heavy metals and mold that keep on popping up throughout my whole panel. And then obviously I was drinking some alcohol the last couple weekends, which I usually don't, but I was trying to live my life, trying to have fun. So that is also going to all contribute to high inflammation levels in the body. My blood sugar levels, amazing, okay? So happy about this, so happy. And then my vitamin and minerals, lastly but not least, we're going to go through my vitamins. So vitamin D, this was low. Obviously, when there's liver stress, when there's kidney stress, you're not going to basically be able to convert your vitamin D. And so, yeah, that, that's it's gonna cause that. It's gonna cause low vitamin D levels. I'm also not taking vitamin D, so this being at 33, that is low, that is deficient. So I really do need to increase that to at least 50. So I got some work to do there too. Again, so this is why I always say you don't want to just blindly supplement with vitamin D, because vitamin D at high levels can be toxic to the body. Vitamin D is technically a steroid. It's not really a vitamin, it's a steroid. It works as a steroid in the body. It's a messenger. So with vitamin D being low, you always want to test before supplementing. So, and you also want to dig deeper. Okay, well, is it a true vitamin D need, or is there something that's blocking the absorption? Do you have liver stress? Do you have kidney stress? Do you have this VDR gene, which basically is just a receptor site? So when that receptor site is blocked by infections, toxins like mycotoxins, mold, heavy metals, then you're not going to increase your vitamin D, even if you're taking vitamin D supplement. So that's something to think about. If you do have low vitamin D levels, your doctor told you to get on a vitamin D supplement, and you go back, you get retested, and your vitamin D levels are still low, and you're on a very high dose of vitamin D. I'm talking about like 10,000 IUs daily, because that is what most doctors recommend, which is insanity. We have to check other things. We have to check that VDR gene. We have to check liver and kidney stress. We have to check if you have autoimmune conditions or a history of autoimmunity. We have to check your digestive system. We have to check fatty acid deficiency. There's so many things to check before just blindly taking vitamin D. Off my soapbox. Magnesium. So magnesium is low. Again, we kind of touched on this. When you're extremely stressed all the time, when you are just running on stress hormones, guess what gets depleted first? Your magnesium. We also need magnesium for over 300 different enzymatic functions in the body. So that means how well your cells are communicating together. And so if you get like muscle cramps, if you have brain fog, if you just kind of feel off in your body, you may be running through your magnesium very, very quickly. And so this is why I love to drink adrenal mocktails, which we'll go through everything I'm going to do for this. So that is basically my full blood work review from a functional perspective. I know it was a lot of information, but this is something that is very, very important to me. I'm also going to touch on just the overall picture of my blood work, right? So as you can see, out of medical range, it was only showing ESR, which is my sedimentation rate, my inflammation levels. So that was high from a medical perspective. Everything else was in the normal range. So if you went to your doctor, you gave them your blood work, or you gave them my blood work, they would be like, wow, everything looks amazing. You're fine. You look great. You are healthy, right? They wouldn't do anything else other than that. From an optimal perspective, I had over 20 markers out of optimal range. So that just means that we have more work to do. We really have more root causes to address. And so with the root cause patterns, I like to break it down this way because, again, it just helps my brain. It just makes more sense too. So first, we're starting with diet and deficiencies. So these are all the vitamins that I was low in, or something was kind of blocking the absorption. So vitamin D, magnesium, choline, selenium, B6, B9, and B12. Stress and dehydration. So there was lots of oxidative stress. So a lot of the biomarkers were pointing back to just overall inflammation in the body. When there's oxidative stress, that means that your inflammation is skyrocketing while your antioxidants are low. So that means I just need to flood the body with more antioxidants. Digestion, drainage, and detoxification. So there was a lot of patterns on my blood work pointing back to digestive stress. Gut inflammation specifically, or also known as gastritis. And then, of course, my kidneys and liver need more support, as always, right? So this is basically just telling me that my detoxification organs are not functioning properly. My digestive system, it needs more support. This is probably where a lot of the inflammation is really starting. When there's inflammation in the gut, that means it's eventually going to lead to full body inflammation. We don't want that. That is really the early signs of dis-ease in the body. Infection, inflammation, and immune system. So I had some chronic infections. Obviously, I already knew this. I have been dealing with heavy metals for a long time, mold and mycotoxins. I did do some protocols beforehand to really get rid of a lot of these heavy metals and mold and mycotoxins. However, I didn't go deeper. So a lot of these heavy metals, mold, and mycotoxins are very, very smart. They will get stuck in your cells. Okay, they will get stuck in your cells. And so when you do take, if you go to your doctor, they'll probably prescribe you antibiotics. If you take the antibiotics, those aren't going to work on a cellular level. So that means they're just completely missing the mold, mycotoxins, heavy metals. Again, my immune system needs more support. As usual, I have a history of autoimmune conditions. My immune system just constantly needs support. That's just how it is. So this is my roadmap. So we went through everything that my blood work is portraying, everything that I need support with. So now we're going to break it down into a very strategic roadmap. So specifically with my nutrition, no gluten, no dairy. I already knew this, but I thought I was smart and, just not having issues there. For MTHFR, I want to increase my animal protein. For magnesium, Epsom salt baths, adrenal mocktails. For vitamin D and selenium, core formulas, daily basics, love that. For B vitamins, I'm either going to take core formulas B Happy Bees, New Medica B12, or beef liver capsules. Foundations for choline, I have been taking Body Bio PC to really rebuild my cells, help with my mitochondria. For oxidative stress, I'm going to really focus on my omega-3 to 6 ratio, so really balancing out inflammation. For digestion and drainage, I'm going to really support my drainage with Drainage Essentials by Core Formulas, castor oil packs, and a leaky gut support. For detoxification, we're going to focus on the immune system. And for mold and metals, we're going to use a bunch of different herbs. So I'm super excited to see you guys at the next video. If you guys have questions, drop them in the comments, and I would love to support you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you guys found that super helpful and super in-depth. If you guys do want your blood work reviewed from a functional perspective, we are offering a free functional blood work review, and all you have to do is head to our website, book that free functional blood work review, upload your labs, and I would love to walk you guys through line by line of what your blood work is communicating to you and what is the root causes behind your symptoms, gut issues, brain fog, low energy.